It's an evening show. What's up, Frank?
It's evening. I don't know what to do with myself.
I'm trying different intros. Different
Outstanding.
intros for day 4. Hey, welcome to BTL. It is an evening show. It is April 23rd, and here's the deal. I will be at Bass Cat at registration doing a live remote on location BTL on Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m. on the shores of Norfolk Lake or wherever that registration is. They haven't really let me know where that registration is, but wherever it is, I'll be there.
That should be good. That should be important info for you.
It is. That's on the, but anyway, I was like, well, instead of recording one, let's do an evening show. And then during the night show, let's give away one of the 7 color number 7s that we've been giving away. Lots of comments on the last Thursday show. You can still go to watch last Thursday's show, comment on YouTube. And if it's an insightful comment and you're also subscribed to BTL, see how we do that. Like we get extra subscribers because they try to win this.
Perfect.
It's a ploy. I think the word for that is a ploy, Frank, right?
Yeah, but it's very legit. It's very legit. You gotta subscribe to get the benefit.
Yep. So we'll pick one of those randomly, and then we'll send you a message on YouTube to get your info for that, or on the next Thursday or Thursday after that show that we record, we'll let you know which one that is. Anyway, long story short, insightful comments tonight. We'll randomly pick someone at the end of the show. We're keeping it to an hour. I'm going to jump on the Tin Horse Monty's live stream at 8 p.m. But we got like an hour and a half, Frank, to bloviate, and I got it right.
That's right. You got it right today. So word of the day, bloviate.
Ploy or bloviate?
We've used bloviate, so ploy is the word of the day.
That sounds kind of sketchy. How's life as a grandpa? I already see a couple people on here. They're saying congrats. Oh, can we put congrats on baby Francesca? Isn't that the name of a soft drink? Oh no, that's Fresca. Never mind. I did for a second. I thought
Francesca's a nice, good Italian name, dude.
That is. I would be very terrified, like, to meet the father of someone named Francesca.
Yeah, Noah's a pretty big dude. Ex-Marine, firefighter.
Francesca SCALISH?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got a ring to it.
Francesca Scalisi.
And where do they live? Like what part of the country?
North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's got some weight behind it. So that I feel like that is a good what's like a rough and like a tough and rugged like girls sport. Lacrosse. That's a lacrosse name.
Yeah, or soccer, I guess.
Yeah.
Soccer's tough. Soccer's pretty tough. If you could stand watching a game that's like, 1-0.
Yeah, that's true. So I was perusing Instagram, and then all of a sudden a text came in. Was it yesterday or the day before? And you were just holding a slaunch. And then I answered, and then yesterday, and then it was followed by more slaunches. You've been freaking smashing them, Frank.
Yeah, I got really lucky. Well, I shouldn't say I got lucky, but Tuesday, not today, last Tuesday, I went out with my cameraman. I took old JoJo fun fishing, and the lake was 2.5, 3 feet high because of all the rain we had. Water was off color, but it wasn't nasty bad like some of the other lakes I went to were just red mud. And I had a hunch. I knew some areas where the smallmouth would spawn, and they spawn on these rock flats that come out. We've talked about them 1,000 times on the show. In fact, we talked about that stuff. The exact stuff we talked about. Yeah, I've broken out of the slump. All right. The slump lasted 2 lakes. and exactly like what we talked about, but the rock piles, rock piles, they're just big rock, sand, and gravel flats with grass mixed in with them. because the lake was a couple feet high, it had a couple more feet of water on the top of them. And I knew the smallmouth were spawning there. But the water, it's way too cold for them to spawn right now. The water temperature was 49 degrees. Anyway, so I got out there and I had one of my jerk baits, the Rogues in the FX colors, and I had a Norman Speed End. And I was throwing chili bowl and ghost pepper in the Speed End, and we railed them. I mean, we railed them. And then we caught some nice ones. I got a 5.5 pound largemouth. We got some 4 pound smallmouth. It was pretty happening. And then I took it laid down. The wind stopped. The lake went slick flat. The crankbait bite and the jerkbait bite kind of slowed down without any ripple on the water. So I grabbed the old flick shake and ran to another section of the lake and started catching largemouth on the flick shake. It was just a really good day. And
this was a week ago.
Yeah, Tuesday,
Okay.
Tuesday. So then I went yesterday, and the water had come down to just below normal pool, and the rock flats didn't have enough water on them to burn that crankbait over them. And it was crystal clear, like I could see every pebble on these flats. So here's what I did, okay, because I knew the bass didn't vacate the area. They were relating to those flats in a different fashion. So what I wound up doing was I wound up getting on the transition zone where the flats drop from 4 feet to 8 feet, and then, to 18 to 30. So I was right on the break, but I was keeping the boat in 8 feet, casting at about a 60-degree angle up to the shallow stuff so I could run it down the break. And I was really combing it. I mean, I was really making tight casts, and working my way down that edge. No matter where that edge went, I was working my way down on it, and caught a couple really nice ones and a bunch of 2 to 3 pounders. And then and so yeah, I mean, that was it. It didn't go off as good as I had expected it to go, but because of the drop in water, the bass got skittish and they went off the break. Now so for 4 days of fishing, I didn't live scope at all. It was all just traditional. Here's a structural element. They're getting ready to come up to spawn. Let's throw jerk baits and crankbaits type of deal. No live scoping. And then the largemouth got shallow enough where I could flick shake them, and I didn't even need the live scope. You just kind of, if you saw anything in the water and you threw by it, you pretty much caught one.
Frank, you've mentioned the flick shaking. I do not recall if you have actually gone into your details of what your actual flick shake setup is, because that seems to be like, so I think of flick shaking, which is the weighted hook with the Jackal flick shake that like originally came out in like 2007.
Yeah, so mine's really simple. Really.
Have you gone over this?
I don't believe so. My flick shake application is as real as it gets.
Are we doing a drawing?
Yeah, real quick. So that's kind of the flick shake hook.
Okay, so it is a flick shake hook. So it's a small, like a drop shot style hook with a weight, with like a jig head weight at the tip on a 60-degree eye.
Correct. Now, ordinarily 99.999% of the time, I'm starting out with a 3/32. If I'm super,
light.
If I'm super shallow, I'm going to go to a 3/32, 1/16, and 1/8 is about as heavy as I get.
Okay.
So all I use on it, which is crazy, it's not all I use, but 90% of the time I just use a 5-inch dinger.
Okay.
I don't waste time with the smaller stuff because I'm trying to catch bigger bass. I don't want to catch 1.5 million pound-and-a-halfers, although you catch 1.5 million pound-and-a-halfers with the 5.5-inch dinger too. But you have your percentage of catching a better bass is much greater with the 5-inch dinger. So that's pretty much my setup. And then I'm using a 7.5 foot Powell 4-power naked series, which is it's as light as a feather, and I use 10-pound braid with an 8-pound fluoro leader, and that's pretty much my flick shake right there. Easy peasy.
Right in the middle of the bait, or are you doing a little bit off center?
Right in the middle of the bait, because what I found with a weighted flick shake head, if you offset it, the bait has a tendency to hook itself, because it doesn't fall like this, it falls like this. And so a lot of times when you pull it, the big part flips over the hook and gets stuck in the hook, on the hook, and I don't want that to happen. So I usually try to do it dead center on the bait, and it stops the fouling almost. It almost never foul hooks itself. But when I offset it, I find it foul hooks a lot. So I don't do it that way.
So the Dinger is known for extremely subtle action because it's a little bit different plastic than a lot of other stick baits. But does the weight in the middle then give it that as it falls? Okay.
Yeah, not only that, not only does it pulsate on both ends, but it swings when it falls because of the weight. So it swings when it falls. And so basically what I'll do is I'll skip it up underneath the dock, and I'll let it sink to the bottom. Most of the time it never gets there. But if it gets to the bottom, then what I do is I pump the rod. I go doom, 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 lift it up, and then let it fall back down again.
Slack line, semi-slack line?
Semi-slack, a controlled fall. I want it to be free, so it does that too. While the ends undulate, I want it to swing back and forth. And then when it hits the bottom again, I'll leave it there and just shake it so it pounds the sand.
Like a shaky head.
Yeah, so it pounds the sand, and then I'll wait a second. If I don't get bit, I reel it in and cast again. It's not something that I'm working all the way back to the boat unless I'm fishing a tapered grass edge. If I'm fishing a tapered grass edge, I literally work it down all the levels of the grass until I get outside the edge of the grass with it. But if I'm if I'm skipping boat docks with it, I cross cut underneath, I fish the dock poles, cross cut underneath, throw a parallel shot all the way down, and any dark spots I see in between the docks, I throw at also. And just keep on keeping on. I don't fish it painfully slow, but I do let it fall to the bottom, pump it up once, let it fall back to the bottom, reel it in, and do it again. Most of the time, what I found, if there's a bass there, it almost never touches the bottom.
I feel like the flick shake always gets brought into shows year round, but it's always like a secondary bait, or they weren't on this and I ended up finding them on a flick shake, or they stopped biting this and I picked up a flick shake. Like, it seems like you throw it, if there's open water, flick shake is an option.
Yeah, I have found that, especially in the springtime, unless you're on a shallow lake, that fish is shallow all the time. Because what I have found in the springtime, it's almost always on my boat. Always. Because if I'm not getting them flipping, pitching, jerking, cranking, I need something more subtle. And so that's always on the deck of my boat. Drop shot is also, but the drop shot plays a little bit more when I'm fishing a little bit deeper than where I'm throwing the flick shake. If I'm fishing in the summertime on grass lakes, I use the net head.
And then I'm trying to pull it up here. Are we just going like green pumpkin, or what are we?
My favorite color is green pumpkin blue, GB haze, and straight watermelon. Watermelon with black flake. Those are my favorite colors for the clear lakes. I mean, if I'm fishing off-colored lakes, then I go green pumpkin blue because it's a little more solid. I'll go Bama Magic, which is like a Magic Cross swirl, and then a couple of the new colors that they came out with. It's like it's not a dirty June bug. Click on that screen. I'll tell you what color it is. Click on the color option.
I'm clicking on it. Oh, weird. It's not. So that shows, but like I see the color option and the color option doesn't show up. I don't know why. That's bizarre.
because you got to put a length in it. Go to 5-inch.
Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a good color too.
You can't see it. So this is weird. So on the screen that shares, I can see the drop down. You can't see the drop down right now. Like as I move, you can see my mouse moving.
Yeah.
Like watch. I'll click on this and it'll go bubblegum. I have a drop down. I don't know why that doesn't translate. That's some weird tech stuff right there.
Oh, that's crazy. Click on some colors. I'll tell you when it comes up.
There's green pumpkin blue.
Go to, I think it's called Dirt Purple.
D, A, B, C. No D, no dirt. There might be a purple dirt. No.
Go to a darker color.
There's GB Haze. You said that, didn't you?
GB Haze is my number 1 ace in the hole money color.
That's weird. Dirt. I don't see dirt purple on here.
Yeah, well, maybe it's not available in the 5-inch.
You've talked about Elder's Magic before, but that's more smallmouthy.
Yeah, Elder's Magic is more something I'm going to drop shot or Ned rig with. I like Elders when I'm largemouth fishing grass lakes. I'll put it on a 1/10 ounce Ned head, and you can feather it right through the grass. Like it comes through the grass like nobody's business. Open hook, by the by.
But if you're going to pick a couple colors, if you're going to want to, I'm just trying to get Flick Shake to where it doesn't matter what your watercolor is, you're going to catch them. Green pumpkin,
green pumpkin blue,
right there.
Always green pumpkin blue, watermelon, always for clearer water, and GB Haze for the mix. Okay,
so there you go. You're $15 in, and you're.
Yeah, I mean it's not rocket science. I don't even make it difficult. I wish GB Haze came in 50 packs because I would just buy a 50 pack.
And then do you have a specific Flick Shake head that you pair that with?
I like Zappu. I like Zappus, but I bought a generic brand because the store I was in the other day didn't have 330 seconds. And so I bought the generic one, and I fished the generic one the last couple of times out. I noticed the difference in the generic one was more like a jig head, like a 90-degree jig head hook style. The Zappu's like on a 60 or a 30, and it's kind of off the shank of the hook, off the hook eye. That one comes through the grass a little bit better than the 90-degree did, but I really didn't have too much issues. I mean, it didn't make me crazy. That's Dirt Purple, by the by.
Yeah, I found it. That's why it says Dirt Purple right there.
Mm-hmm.
If you use the discount code capital BTL24, no spaces in it, you can get 15% off regularly priced items. And I know that, Uncle Frank, because let's see if I can have it. There you go.
I'll pull that up.
Thank you for your purchase right there.
Nice.
Minutes before the show. The Shad Week t-shirt is headed to Shawnee, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I got a few Shad Week shirts coming my way too. I will just tell you guys this. Order them things if you like them, because they will never be available again. There is all I can tell you is it is now becoming a collector's item.
This a one-time run?
It wasn't gonna be, but it is now.
Interesting.
Yeah, I absolutely love that shirt. I that's great.
Yeah, I am not a big online purchaser. Like I've got like a Matt Becker hat, and I bought a couple other things, but I literally, with like 5 minutes before the show, you're like, hey, if you want one of those, you have days, and that's it. Maybe not even that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you said that's all legally I'm allowed to say.
Right, 100%.
But yeah, if you want that. And then I actually, unlike you, I actually use the discount code that they purchased, and it saved me $3.95.
Yeah, dude, I forgot. I made a massive Rogue order the other day.
Which is ridiculous that you just don't have carte blanche. Is that the correct terminology?
Yeah,
on lurenet.com. You should be able to order whatever you want, and they send a pallet to your door front in Ohio.
Yes,
for like no charge.
I concur. I agree with that. But a lot of it is like I'll get a gift card from them. I'll get a gift card. And then I'll rifle through the gift card because what I get is I get all the colors that I paint so I could film with them. And a lot of times they don't come out. I have to film with them before they come out. And so I'm painting them all for myself to film with. But I mean, truth be told, I'm getting kind of sick of painting baits for me to fish with because 90% of what's in my boat is my hand painted stuff. And I don't mind using my hand painted stuff because it's a blast to catch fish on what you make. But when a pike gets it or a muskie gets it, I'm like pissed because if he takes it, I got to paint another one. You know what I mean? And so I don't feel as upset when I get a store-bought bait and a pike or a muskie take it. I'm like, oh, well, and I tie on another one. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't have man hours in it. The man hours are done. By the time it hits the shelves, my man hours are done with it at the thing. So, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
All right. Hey, do you want to take a couple questions?
Yeah, fire it up, man. Let's fire up.
Here's the first one. This is more of a challenge, and John is currently in the lead, in my opinion, for the color number 7. You got a blank piece of paper?
Yeah.
You got a pen? John says, I bet Uncle Frank could draw a geometrically perfect circle freehand. Let me go full screen right there. Frank has put the spectacles on. Do you want 3 chances and you can take the best, or do you think you can do this freehand first? You're already on it. You're already like halfway done with it. All right, let's see it. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, except for that.
Yeah, try it again now that you know what you're doing. Because I'm curious. I'm gonna do the same thing. Let's do it. Let's draw circles together.
Oh my god.
3, 2, 1, go. Oof. That's pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, that's great, dude. It looks like
Is that a good?
Yeah, it's a good circle.
That's a good circle?
Yeah.
Your circle's a little bit better.
I don't know about that, but that's all right. Hey, challenge accepted. Your challenge is acceptable. Or what do they say on Men in Black? Your proposal is acceptable.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, Dave, just a circle.
A circle of friends.
Okay, there were some other questions. Hold on, I got to scroll up. I've been meaning to That's an interesting comment. He said a flick shake with a minnow style bait like a magic flicker or crosstail shad is a favorite for smallies. I've done really well around suspended fish in the summertime on cables that are supporting break walls, and there's schools of bass around them, and I will wacky rig a fluke style bait.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
And then when you just go do like that, the thing just goes nuts around that cable, and those fish will shoot up off the cable and
that's pretty
eat
slick.
It.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here is a question, and Drunkwood actually brings up a good point, and I would wonder, since you're a smallmouth guy, I wonder if you have an explanation for this. So, Bassmaster College Tournament, predominantly smallmouth, lots of 20-pound bags on Kentucky Lake. MLF Invitational, lots of 20-pound bags, 18 to 20-pound bags of smallmouth. Kentucky Lake went from an occasional smallmouth 15 years ago to now it is just inundated with 2 3/4 to 5 pound smallmouth. We've seen a lot of mid-20s bags of smallmouth. How does a fishery flip from a largemouth to a smallmouth fishery? Like, what are the dynamics on how that happens, Frank?
Okay, so we had a lake here that was predominantly a largemouth fishery, and it flipped. It took a lot of years for it to happen. You could go out and you could catch limits of smallmouth, but they were small limits, and you worked your ass off to catch them. And then little by little, the smallmouth became more prevalent. With Kentucky Lake, I think part of it was the Asian carp epidemic they had there, because the smallmouth were real easily pelagic, and so they can live in the open water, they can roam, and they can feed and everything, where the largemouth get structure oriented. A lot of them get structure oriented, not all of them, obviously. A lot of them get structure oriented. Those Asian carp occupy almost every part of the water column, and so they would pile on these structural elements that the largemouth took, and I believe would almost deter them from holding on that cover for any length of time.
Okay.
And it gave the smallmouth an opportunity to keep going and going and going. But the other thing I noticed was Kentucky Lake's grass cycle. One time I was there a billion years ago, and you couldn't find a blade of grass in the place. Then I went back, and it was all grass. And then the grass was sporadic and sparse. And so the lake cycles are changing. Smallmouth, given the right conditions and half the chance, will overpopulate the largemouth eventually. Unless it's on the downside of the lake, and the largemouth have a stronghold, the smallmouth can never get that stronghold. But with Kentucky Lake and Barkley, you have the current, you have a lot of things that are favorable to smallmouth, especially Kentucky Lake. Like, the truth of the matter is, when I fished tournaments down there, when I was structure fishing and it wasn't predicated around the spawn, I ran to Barkley, because Barkley fish is shallower than Kentucky Lake, and the structural elements in Barkley are more, they're more packed in, they're more confined, where Kentucky Lake spreads out. There's millions of offshore places on Kentucky Lake. So that makes the task of finding the fish out there daunting. So I would run to Barkley, and it was real obvious where the bass were going to be. And that's what I did. But when I smallmouth fished, I stayed in Kentucky Lake, because Kentucky Lake offers a much better smallmouth fishery. And then the grass came back on Kentucky Lake, and then I fished the grass for largemouth and didn't have to run to Barkley, because the grass, it was holding them, and if you found them in there, you were golden. But the smallmouth is crazy. So this lake that we had was a structure lake. There's not a blade of grass in the place. Was actually a really good largemouth fishery. And then I would go out there and I would catch mixed bags offshore. I would catch largemouth and smallmouth mixed, and some of the smallmouth were as big as the largemouth. I'm talking, 4-pound plus fish. And I said, holy smoke. So I lived on the lake offshore for my whole life. I actually almost never fished it in the spring, because I want to structure fish. So I never even hardly went there in the spring. And then all of a sudden I'm offshore fishing, and everything I'm catching is a smallmouth. I barely ever catch a largemouth there anymore. It's all smallmouth, and good ones. And so, I mean, the last time I had a good day there was a few years ago, and I was with Josh, and we only fished until noon, and we caught over 50. It was a good, I mean, it was, and we had a big limit. So, I mean, it's just like, you know, one of those things when the lake flops, it flops, dude. And the smallmouth fishing is Kentucky Lake can harbor a lot of smallmouth.
I never thought I would hear on stage someone who had a good tournament say, you know, I really targeted the smallmouth because they're bigger than average. They're bigger than average than the largemouth on Kentucky Lake. Like, did you ever think you would ever hear the day that would come out of someone's mouth? I was like, holy cow, like that's crazy. That's a good question.
Yeah. You had a thought.
No, I had a bunch. Oh, okay. Academic mailbox had a long question. The gist of it, the first part of it, he asked it even before the show started, so we'll get to it, was ask Frank if he ever weighs his fly lines on a gram or grain scale.
My fly lines, no, I don't weigh them. But when I buy sink tip, you know, I'll buy like T11 or whatever, and it has a certain sink rate to it, and then I make different size sink tips. Where I'll make 3-footers, 4-footers, 5-footers, and 6-footers, and it's all dependent on the swiftness of the current and the depth I want to get my streamer to.
Are you a guy? So I have roomed with guys who, like, their terminal tackle box turns upside down, and then they get into the VRBO at night and they break out the scale so they can put all of their weights and all of their jig heads. Are you a guy who has a legal scale?
No,
like the little deal that's like down to hundredths of a gram or whatever.
No. So what I'll do is most of the time I'm pouring my own stuff, and so when I do that, I label it quarter ounce, and then when I paint the head, I write, you know, the weight on it and then clear coat it. So the weight's on the jig heads, the weight's on the slip sinkers. So if something happens, all I got to do is look at it and go,
okay.
yeah,
that's fair.
It's just quicker that way. That's why I like what they're doing now with a lot of the
stamping it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's freaking killer. Will fish still spawn? This is a question from Cody. Will fish still spawn in areas where curly tail pondweed is in abundance? Like some of our lakes just get blown out with it. Is it worth exploring?
Oh God, yeah.
Your blue marks, even if it's blown out.
Yeah, Cody, you must be fishing here.
I don't know what any of that means, Frank.
Yeah, I could name the lakes he's probably talking about. Yeah, so early in this coontail, I mean, curly leaf pondweed literally starts growing at ice out.
What is that?
It's a cold water weed that grows like crazy until the water temperature gets to 70 degrees, and then it starts dying like crazy. And so what's happening is our lakes are getting choked with this stuff, and the bass absolutely use it. They spawn in it because the hard bottom areas, the pondweed's not going to grow as much. It's not going to grow as thick. And so, but what happens is the pondweed grows tall, and then it'll roll over itself. So you don't see a lot of the holes where the hard bottom is. So you're almost going to punch it, but it's not a heavy enough grass where you're going to use a 3/4 or a 1 ounce punch weight. You could go to a 3/8 or even a half, and you can get through it. But you got to know where the hard spots are with that stuff, and the bass will use it. The thing I don't like about it is when it dies, and it dies fast, and it dies. There's so much of it that it turns to black slime on the bottom. So a lot of the rock piles in this one specific lake that Cody's probably talking about, it dies on these rock piles, and all the black slime gets on the rock piles, and the bass won't use them anymore. And that's what irritates me the most about it, because in the beginning days of me fishing some of these waters, I never really looked at them until after I stopped fishing Bassmasters. And that was the first time I had gone to these lakes, to be honest with you, and was literally like stunned at the fisheries, and the offshore fisheries. And then this pondweed took hold, and all of a sudden, when spring is over, the bass are off the banks and all the pondweed is dead, I go to these structural elements and I can't get a Carolina rig through it because it comes up with a big ball of black slime on it, or your jig does, or whatever you're doing does. So I went to crankbaits that were deep enough not to hit the bottom, not to hit the rocks, just to run above this stuff, and no bass on them. But if I found clear places where I could touch the rocks and not come up with stuff, I caught the bass. But the problem is you're taking a spot that's this big and you're making it this big. And so that's where a lot of the, my hate for the pondweed is there. But early on in, the crappie use it, the perch use it, the bass use it. I went to that lake and I was perch fishing, and all the perch were spawning on the inside edge of the curly leaf. And so I would get my boat through all the curly leaf pondweed, and there would be a 5-foot section between the bank and where the pondweed starts growing, and all the perch were spawning in there. So when perch spawn, they don't lay eggs in a nest like a bass does, a bluegill, or a crappie. They have ribbons and they lay them on the stalks of the grass. And so the perch were using the inside edge of it to spawn, not the outside edges, the inside edges of it. Once I figured that out, we waylaid them. But yeah, so pondweed's a pain in the ass, to be honest with you, but the bass use it. You just got to know what was there before the pondweed grows, or you can't find it once the weeds come to the surface. And we are just inundated with it, and it's getting worse. The lakes are just getting completely choked with this stuff. It's funny because we have a fishery here, one of the best fisheries in the state, and the Corps of Engineers and the DNR are spraying all the coontail and hydrilla out of it. And it's one of the best bass fisheries we got. And the lakes that are getting completely messed up with curly leaf pondweed, they do nothing with it, because the growing season is, like I said, from ice out till the water temperature hits 70 degrees. So they think that it's controlled, because once the summer hits, it's not around anymore. But I don't like it. I mean, okay, you catch fish out of it, but I don't like it.
So this dovetails nicely into Alex's question, which is, how do you attack a smaller natural lake that has an aggressive HOA poisoning grass and cutting constantly?
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, so cutting the grass is okay, because the cutters can only go.
What do you wait? Whoa! What do you mean cutting the grass?
Okay, so it's a machine. It looks like it's got 2 paddle wheels on the outside, and it's got blades in the front that literally cut the grass like cutting the lawn. That's okay. It screws the fishing up right when they're done cutting, because they run everything out of the grass that once they cut. But once they're done cutting, it starts to grow back, and they'll be, where they don't cut, there'll be a hard line, and there'll be new carpeting growing, and the new carpeting and the hard line is what
creates
they like.
Potential.
Right. It's what they like.
You'd rather them cut than poison.
Oh, 100%. The spraying the grass, like, I think it's such bullshit when they say, well, we're only going to target hydrilla, because I have not seen a weed poison for water vegetation that targets one species and not all of them. So all of them are affected to some degree, whether they put pellets in, because that's the new thing now, the pellets. They sink to the bottom, destroy the root systems, et cetera, et cetera. That's the new thing. But what I don't understand is, ecologically, almost every fish in the ecosystem uses and relies on the vegetation. And so if they get rid of it all, okay, or 90% of it, you don't have as much young of the year survival rate. The fish don't use it as much. Walleye use the grass, crappies, perch, bass, catfish, everything uses that grass when it's there. And so when you remove it, so what happens is this lake is a really good fishery, but a bunch of years ago it didn't have grass. And you would do a tournament out there and it would take 9.5 to 11 pounds to win it. Now it takes 18 to 22. And they're spraying all the grass. They've been spraying it for 2 years now. They're going to do it for another year. And so what's going to happen is if they wipe all the grass out, it'll fish like the lake will fish like unbelievable for the first couple years the grass is gone, because anything hard, anything in the water is going to hold them. And then all of a sudden it's going to turn back into one of those 1.5 to 2 pound fisheries again. I don't understand it. I mean, I get the guy, I think you had him on, Matt. The guy talked about the value of the water.
Yeah. Gene Gilliland.
Yeah. So I get that. And I listened to that show because I was curious as hell. And so the lake that I'm talking about sees almost zero recreational boating. It's a fishing lake. There's literally maybe 3 houses on the entire lake. So I'm not 100% sure what they're worried about with this grass, because it's not clean enough for it to grow deep. So the most it'll grow is 8 feet deep. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Frankie taking a shot at the deal.
Yeah, shots fired. So
yeah, that got you fired up.
Yeah, so because of the clarity of the water, the weeds only grow, 8-10 feet tops. But it was nice because the lake's too small to harbor the fishing pressure that it gets. But when the grass is up and good, it spreads all the anglers out. So it fishes actually bigger than it is. And there's a lot of fish in the lake. But that's, if they kill all the grass, that's going to end. If they let the grass come back, it'll be okay. But if they're going to kill all of it, it's going to turn into a, 11 pounds. I won. Woohoo. Where now it's like
a win's a win, Frank.
No, I 100%.
I'm just kidding. I know, but 100%. I'd rather win with 25 than 12.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. But it's like,
if you're going to win, you might as well come in with a satchel.
Well, the thing is what's
the purpose is what you're saying. Like, why would you kill a great fishery if it's not benefit, if they're not increasing the value of the water for the other demographic that supposedly enjoys it?
Correct.
You want to go to a less controversial subject?
Oh yeah, please.
I think this is less if this gets you fired up, then we are in for one tonight. Sam says, I need to know. And then he says, maybe I'm just curious about it. What does Frank use as a hook on his Carolina rig? A few months back, he talked about it, but I never got the exact description.
Let me just make sure.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about this one. This is an interesting one. Take one of those suckers out if there's one in there, Frank.
Well, I hope there's one in here. I got a couple of straight shank flipping hooks in here because I was using. Oh, I got one.
Say what that is. Read it just for our iTunes listeners.
Okay, so for iTunes, it's a Mustad Ultra Point Megabyte.
And there's a good chance you'll go look at that in the store and go, no thanks.
Yeah,
but it works for Frank. So
listen here. I got a lot of flack for this hook already. Now I tie the little keeper.
It's odd looking. That's how it comes out of the pack, minus the keeper. Like you're not taking pliers and torquing that thing to a different shape.
No. So when I texpose it, and I don't have a soft plastic up here, but when I texpose it, this hook is perfect for that because it goes to the hook point goes on the back of the worm, and see how it points down into my finger. So when I pull the plastisol from the worm and put it over it, it holds it in place. It doesn't want to, like a straight hook, it'll come out real easy. That holds it in place. So I don't snag a lot with it.
Is that a light wire? What's the gauge on that?
No, it's not a light wire. It's a standard wire hook. They're strong as crap. I've never bent one. I Carolina rig with 50-pound Power Pro. I never straightened one out, ever. So, people could say whatever they want. And it'll hold a point. When you sharpen it, it'll really hold a point good. I don't have, you could use whatever hook you're comfortable with, but this is what I use. It's never failed me. I don't lose fish when I Carolina rig. I mean, you could ask any of my sons that fish with me all the time, or anybody that's ever been with me, my cameraman, whatever, when I'm Carolina rigging and I'm using this hook, the minute I go, there he is. It's coming to the boat. I don't care how big it is or how small
I'm giving you crap on
it,
but
to the boat.
I believe you. I have no reason to doubt because you've thrown a Carolina rig hundreds of hours longer than I have.
Thousands. I mean, I love it. I love Carolina rigging.
All right, let's do a little rapid fire. No, we have not done the giveaway yet. We have a lot of good questions tonight. I've thoroughly enjoyed tonight's show.
Yeah, me too. I love questions.
Are we getting any Raider Norman colors yet? Travis would like to know. You can plead the fifth.
Not to my knowledge at this point.
Okay. Gators Adventure would like to know where's a good place to go smallmouth fishing for a week at the end of October.
Dude, that's
risky anywhere, isn't it? Anywhere that's really good smallmouth fishing up north is going to be risky the end of October, but you could also hit it.
Yeah,
gangbusters.
I mean, it's the fishing aspect of it will be, if you're on them, you are going to be on them. If you're talking about the Great Lakes, October, November is probably the most volatile weather time you could be there. The weather is massively unpredictable. Gosh, that's a tough question because I don't know if you're talking about inland, if you're talking about Great Lakes.
I think it's a trip. They said last year Toledo Bend, and this year is question mark. So I think they're willing to travel. Because I would say, Frank, if I was going to answer that question, I'd say Thousand Islands. Because if it's volatile, you can get on the river, you can catch them. I know what Travis and Big JP can do up there, and that is their favorite time of the year to bust giant bags.
I think for absolute massive monster bags, I think Thousand Islands is the key. But I think for diversity of your fishing, Champlain is a sleeper.
Yeah, but you're also dealing with volatile weather that time of year. Yeah. Anywhere you go up north where you're looking for big smallmouth. But if you hit it, it's the stuff of legends. Especially do your homework. If you're going to go, do your homework or go out with a guide or someone who knows where they are, because you've done a lot of shows that talk about how as that water gets colder and they have wintering areas, holding areas, and the fish get tighter, they're not everywhere that time of year.
No. And generally speaking, in October, the Great Lakes smallmouth have a tendency to start coming shallow again. And shallow is all relative to what body of water you're on, by the way. So they'll start to move shallow again, but they're moving. They're constantly moving. And so you got to stay with them. So, I would say if you're doing a destination trip, I would say hire a guide, because then you're guaranteed to catch them because they're fishing every day. And so they're always on top of those fish. They're not going to let them, disappear.
And if you're looking for a good guide, we've done one on Mille Lacs. We've done one on Thousand Islands. Check out BTL's Guide Day every other Friday.
That's right.
On BTL.
That's right.
Jim wants. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to cut you off if you're talking about.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, you've got Guide Day on Friday. Everybody knows Travis is a smallmouth guide.
Yep, Travis Manson, smallmouthcrush.com.
Right. So there's plenty of opportunity.
Jim, who I believe is who won the last color number 7 that you mailed out, right?
I mailed it.
I think he posted on it, and then I reposted it. He wants to know if you've ever made your own plastics.
No, I never monkeyed with making my own plastics. I thought about it for a while and then decided that I don't want to deal with all the plastisols and everything else. If you saw where I make lures,
it's impressive.
Yeah, you'd lose your mind. I can't I can't take on another project like that.
Yeah, we'll ask this question. Why not? Nick would like to know if you've ever fished a lock.
Like a lock is in like where the Loch Ness Monster lives, or a lock is in like.
As in like, I think I'm going to lock
the
through
Ohio River.
So this question goes from Trey McKinney, who, there's no rule against it, and it didn't say no fishing, but he was blasting him on a topwater inside the lock on the Harris chain. Inside the lock, while the lock was closed, filling up with water, was like keeping fish, which, I mean, it was cleared, right? He was on live doing it. Like he had a camera with him while he was doing it, because Florida's like different. It's not like a lock on the Arkansas River
or
that's
the
like
Ohio River.
Yeah.
No, I've never fished inside the lock proper.
Yeah.
But I have fished where the lock doors open and have absolutely railed them. Now you have to see what the legalities are of that.
Usually there's some signs that'll let you know where you can and can't cast.
Right.
And if you're in a tournament, you treat that like a brick wall where it says don't cast.
Correct. And so we had a flood episode on the Ohio River one time where it flooded so high off its banks that they literally weren't opening and closing the locks. Okay. And so there was a massive eddy behind there when all the water's rushing over the dam, the walls that come out from the lock, it creates this big eddy in there. And so I was actually, dude, this is the craziest thing. I was with a buyer from God, I can't forget it's an old sporting goods store, maybe Koenig Sporting Goods or something. They're out of business now. But I was with the buyer from them, and we were throwing 2 crankbaits. I was throwing the Rebel Craw D76 and the old Deep We Are in the Crawdad color 035, which was brown, bone, and orange. And we were fishing the riprap inside the lock wall that went all the way to the short lock. There's 2 locks, a long lock and a short lock. This went all the way to the short lock. And we caught smallmouth on this river that you would have thought we were catching them on Lake Erie. That's how big they were. And we absolutely manhandled them. And I have never, ever, ever experienced fishing like that again, because the river was so flooded. Like I said, I mean, they weren't, it was just so perfect. Everything just was so perfect for it.
There you go. This is an interesting question from Brandon, because I've attacked this. I'm thinking even ponds. How do you break down an overgrown grass lake? Like, you get to those lakes and there's just freaking crap everywhere, and like the middle of it has like a fountain where there's like a gap where you're like lobbing your
Trying
jinger into the open where you're like open water. Like, how do you just attack? And I mean, I've also seen the lakes where like you troll, edge troll, and it's just grass.
Yeah, I mean, it's really bizarre because the whole entire lake, if it's a big lake, can't be weed choked. If it's a shallow dish bowl type lake, it could get weed choked. I'll look for different types of vegetation, or if you notice when the grass grows to the top, you'll see different colors. Like some will be a vibrant chartreusey green, some will be brown, some will be yellow, some will be red. They'll have red tips on them. They'll show a preference to what grass they want.
Okay.
Like this one lake I fished had beautiful mats on it, and they were the typical mats that guys drool over, the cheesy ones. They look like, they call them cheesy mats. The beautiful mats. What I found was anywhere they had the red tips on them is where we caught the fish. So I didn't even fish the green cheese. I was just motoring down. As soon as I saw red, I stopped and fished, and we caught them every single place that the red tips were at. So it's really kind of weird. My phone is doing bad things to me.
What, are you getting a bunch of text messages?
No, well, yeah, and then I scrolled on it and it said some emergency crap, but
like a weather thing. You don't have to take like a family emergency call, do you?
No, I'm good.
We got to wrap things up here. Like I said, in probably about 10-15 minutes. I'm trying to get through some of these. We got a lot of good questions tonight.
Yeah, I love the questions.
Rick would like to know, what water temperature do you start looking for a shad spawn? It's a good question, because I honestly don't know either.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the water temperature of the shad spawn.
Because most of my shad spawn experience has been like, you're at the boat ramp and some guy's like, man, there's a hell of a shad spawn. And
yeah.
I'm like, okay, how many more mornings do I have? I need to get to the boat ramp.
Yeah, earlier. Exactly. I think in the shad episode, if I'm not mistaken, I think the shad spawned. I'd have to go back.
We did a whole episode on it and take it.
Right, but I believe it was like something like 68 to 72 degrees.
But I will also say, regardless of what the temperature is, one of the keys that you had in that show, which I have employed, is if you are driving down the lake during this several month period of the year and you see white egrets, blue herrings, gulls, birds lined up on a bank and it's early in the morning, that's probably a good bank that you need to go check for shad spawn on, because they're not there for their health. I mean, they are there for their health, and it's to eat the shad that are spawning.
That's correct. That is correct.
Now, I will also say on Wheeler, I counted between 50 and 60 blue herons and white egrets that were on this bank. And I rolled up to this bank and I started throwing a willow leaf spinner bait. And I said, by goodness, I'm going to smash them. Well, as I went down that bank, it occurred to me that every single white egret and blue heron was now flying to the bank on the opposite shore, where when I had rolled up, there was not a single bird present. So this is no joke. I'm not kidding you. So I'm halfway down this bank. I've spooked all these birds, and now they're on the bank opposite, where when I drove past, there wasn't a single bird in sight. 3 boats stopped on that bank that had all those birds that just went from here and went, well, I don't know what this guy's doing, but we're leaving, to the other bank. And the only reason they were on that bank was because I spooked them off of this bank.
Right.
So I think it's kind of key, like, that you're one of the first people in that area if you're going with the bird pattern.
Yeah, I think that's pretty key. That's like, dude, that's like when you're flipping and you see spider webs on everything. You're like, oh man, nobody was in here.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Alex, another good question. When do you pick up a tube over a Ned rig? I'm good with a Ned, but never know when it might be better to use a tube. They're very similar baits.
They are, and they're not. if I'm on the Great Lakes, I'm almost 50-50 anymore, but I used to be almost 100% tube guy on the Great Lakes because you just can't beat it. I mean, you just can't beat it when it's happening. But I don't know, like I honestly, here's what I do, because I'll be fishing both of them simultaneously, alternating.
Mm-hmm.
If I start catching them on one, I start fishing one a little more. So then by an hour in, I know that they're on the tube better or they're on the Ned better. And that's kind of how it goes.
You want my take on it, Frank?
Yeah.
Here's my take on it. So I'm not a tube guy because I'm Oklahoma, right?
Right.
But I'm a Ned guy because I started throwing a Ned and they caught him on it. I know a lot of northern guys catch the crap out of them down south on a tube.
Mm-hmm.
I think
it's what you have.
It's a very interchangeable bait. Now I understand there are some advantages of standing up, slender profile, hopping it. There are subtle differences, but I think that a tube would be the Ned had it been. I mean, it's called the stupid tube. Isn't the stupid tube basically a Ned that's weedless? And I mean, aren't they somewhat interchangeable? I mean, you can do more, but
they are. I can't.
Big Ned, a small Ned, a skinny tube. Like I think a lot of the fish that eat a Ned would eat a tube, but they eat a Ned because that's what I throw. Like if I threw a tube on those fish where I was catching them on a Ned, I think I'd catch a lot of the same fish.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, we used to throw the original Bobby Garland Gets It, which was, as thin as this pen.
Frank disagrees. Dave Tisbett disagrees. A lot of people disagree.
Yeah, I mean the tube, the Ned's appeal is how it falls and what it does.
But
when you're dragging the tube,
stroke a Ned.
Right, but when you're dragging the tube and you're doing it the right way, it's hard to beat the tube. It's just hard to beat it. And now they got now with Great Lakes Finesse with their tube head that helps keep that hook standing upright. I mean, if the Ned if all you needed was the Ned, I wouldn't carry tubes in my boat. But I have a freaking box of tubes in my boat and tube heads. So, I mean, there's times when one will outperform the other, but if you're smallmouth fishing, you got to almost throw a tube.
Okay. I'm not going to disagree.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on them, Matt, we would probably catch them together. I
would love to get on a good bite, and I would throw the Ned of my choice, and you throw the tube of your choice, just to see. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I would like to see the differences on how you work it differently. And because listen, like you watch Zona or KVD or anybody who's any smallmouth fisherman up north that's been around for a while, and like. The tube is the holy grail. Like, okay, listen, I fished with, at a Strike King deal, I fished with Zona on a couple of his ponds up in Michigan. This is no joke. And he said, we're going to crack a tube, which is what Zona does.
Right.
And I'm using his rod, his reel, his bait. It's identical. Dude, it was like 11-1. He beat me. And I'm on the front deck with him. Like we're fishing. Like hard. It was unbelievable. I'm like, it's a tube. Like, how do you, but dude, it was 11-1 and we were casting to the same stuff. He was that magical with the tube.
Because it's all how you slide it across the bottom. That's the key.
He was doing all sorts of stuff with it. He was cracking it, dragging it, and then boom, he'd have one. And I'd be like, come on, dude. Like another one?
Yeah.
I mean, it made me feel really dumb, like in a good way. Like he was.
Yeah, but don't because that's his bread and butter. So don't. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So I agree. I mean, what I'm doing is conferring with you. I guess there is a difference between a tube and a Ned. Yeah. As far as the bite wise,
I think there's a difference. I just think there's a difference in the baits, and that's really what it amounts to.
One more comment that I wanted to. Oh, Chase said he watches a lot of BTL. It's his first time watching live.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He also would like to know what kind of line and how much you use on backing for a spinning reel with your braid.
Okay, so here's the thing. The backing of the spinning reel, you have to remember something, okay? Your backing is going to be much thicker than the braid you put on it. So what I want to do is I don't want to put 300 yards of braid on my reel. Okay. I try to keep it at about 100 yards of braid on my reel. And
Okay.
then what I do for drop shotting is I have 10-pound braid, 12-pound braid, and then my leader lines could be anything from 8 to 12, depending. And that's how I set my spinning rods up. Now I'm using the I'm using the Sunline 10-pound braid, not gosh, I can't.
The SX1.
Yes.
Okay.
I like that a lot. In 10 and 12. Power Pro's good, but Power Pro doesn't make 12. I think they make 10 and 14, if I'm not mistaken. So just pay attention to whoever's braid you're using.
I've got to get you some of the new Sunline braid. It sinks. The braid actually sinks. It's pink.
Oh, I don't even want it if it's pink.
Yes, you do. It's good stuff. I've been using it. It's really good for 12 pounds.
Like, I don't even use the fluorescent braid.
All Might. Yeah, there's Chris. Chris says, look, the All Might pink braid is fire.
All right. I mean, I'm up for learning. I'm all about learning.
Tie the stuff out, tie the stuff to the post in your front yard, walk it back past the herds of deer in your backyard, take a Sharpie and turn it green or black or whatever color makes you feel manly.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. Exactly.
I look at my front deck now. I've got green, white, orange, pink. I mean, it's like a rainbow on the front deck of spinning.
Yeah, I mean, and truth be told, if you have a 12-foot leader of fluorocarbon, it doesn't matter what color your braid is, because the bass ain't ever going to see it anyway. And if you're fishing in a lake with grass, they don't know the difference between braid and a floating piece of grass.
That's a fair point. Let's pick a winner.
Okay, so you're gonna scroll, and I'm gonna go stop, right?
Well, so I've starred 16 of the questions that we asked tonight.
Okay.
I do want to tell a story about this. So I was at Mark Jeffrey's new house today. Lovely retirement house for them. Great outbuilding. He's got a whole studio already set up out there for his bowling, all sorts of stuff. House is immaculate, exactly like I would picture Carolyn had it. Very nice. Got a half acre. Gorgeous. They just moved there like 3 weeks ago.
Perfect.
So I'm in the studio, and of course I'm eyeballing all of his fishing stuff because he had to change it when he moved, right? So I was like, okay, I know he's got some good stuff. Like the SKT Revos, like when Skeet had the actual Revos with the big pat, like the old, like heavy Revos, like the money ones. Anyway, I'm going through his stuff and I see this spook on a hanger, and it's got hooks on it, and it's got a line tie on it, and it's a color number 7. And I look at it and I'm like, that sucker put hooks on the number 2 ever made, hand painted color number 7, and has been throwing it. It has line on it. And I'm like, dude, what is your problem? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, you see this on the bottom? It says FAS number 2. I was like, this is the original paint job, like straight off the airbrush. Frank has number 1. You have number 2. And he goes, no, that's not it. And I go,
yeah, it is.
It's complete. You cannot argue that point, Mark. Like, look, it says number 2 on it. Like, 1 through 7 were labeled. Like the one that I have up here is, oh, there goes Gleason's deal. The one that I have up here is, what do I have? What number do I have?
8. You might have 8. You have 8 or 6, because I actually took.
I have number 8.
Yeah, I took number 7.
Yes. So his has number 2 FAS 12/21/21. Mine says number 8 FAS 12/22/21.
Yeah, he's crazy, dude. He could buy them. He could.
That's what I told him. So I took it and I went and put it over in the corner and was like, "What is your problem, dude?" I was like, "Do you realize this is a collector's?"
Dude, I don't even know who has number 1.
You do.
No, I have number 7.
Who has number 1?
I don't know who's.
Does Mark have number 1 too?
Mark might have number 1.
Wait, Mark has number 1 and 2.
I don't know.
Kirk has number 13. Where are the hand numbered? Here, I'll show it, and then we'll have to wrap it up.
I might have only hand painted. Yeah, that's one of the original paint jobs.
Okay, so why? And it says number 8, Matt, right on the package. So
yes.
Where are the 8?
So I have number 7. Frankie's got probably.
Jacob's saying he thinks you give Mark the first 2. So maybe Mark kept number 1 in the package and then used number 2.
It's maybe. I have no idea.
So where's like 3, 4, 5, and 6?
Okay, so Pradco's got 4.
Wait, I think Frankie said he has 4.
Okay, so Pradco's got 5 and 6.
Okay. You've got 7, I've got 8.
Right. And I think I only painted 8.
But then you did more than that because we gave away a couple, I think.
Yeah, so I think I might have did 13 or 14. I might have painted 13 or 14 of them, but that was it.
So number 3 is the only one that's missing.
1 and 3.
Okay, I think Mark has number 1. I think that's where the disconnect came. Like that was a great point. He used number 2 so he could save number 1.
Got it.
So there's 1 and 2. So we're missing 3. Frankie has number 4.
Yeah, I don't know who.
Pradco has 5 and 6. You have number 7. I have number 8. Is Peter being serious? Peter says he has number 9.
He might have number 9.
That sounds familiar. And Doug Stewart says he's got number 14. And Kirk says he's got number 13.
Okay, so we're only missing 1. We're missing 3. I wonder if I gave Pradco 3, 4. I think I did because I gave Chad 1 at Pradco.
Yeah, Jim. So there were literally like a number. The one that just went to Jim. That was why it took a year and a half or 2 years after we got the originals. Frank went through the whole system of how long it takes to get it and color match it and make the colors and get them painted and put them on the market. So even though they're limited numbers, there's only 14 that are actually numbered.
That are actually hand painted by me.
Yeah, hand painted. Like this one came out of your basement. Yeah, and anyone else who has one on here that has that, it'll say like number FAS with a date on the bottom.
Yeah,
those are actually.
If it's got my initials and the date on the bottom,
it's
actually physically painted by me. If it's just got my personal signature on it, it was probably one of the first of the runs that I took to sign for some people to give away, and then of course, and then
there were 500 of the original runs. 300 or 500 of the original runs that we sold out of in 2 minutes.
But those were not numbered.
Those were not numbered. Okay, is there any way you can tell a difference between like that original run and then the next run that we did after they decided to kind of put it into one of the colors? Is there any differences?
No, because essentially it's the same bait. It's the same color, same bait, same everything. They just didn't make enough of them first. So they kept production going. They just didn't make enough of them for the drop.
And listen, Gator said when they kept producing them, the value dropped for the rest of us. So we were trying to create a valuable bait. What we were trying to do was create something for the BTL listeners to have like a little part of the show.
Right. 100%.
And so it really was more of trying to get it in the people's hands who want one so they can have one and have a cool story with it with the 7 instead of trying to make a valuable bait.
Right. So here's
you good? You got to take that?
No. So real quick. So here's the thing, because he made a point about the value of a bait. So I'm gonna announce something right now, real quick. So I've done a dozen so far signature series baits that are numbered and signed. They will be starting to be launched May 2nd. There'll be one a month. I'll show you guys at the next episode. I'll show you the first one coming out. They will never be made again. They will be numbered and signed. They are true collectibles. So we have that coming, and it'll start May 2nd. Thursday, May 2nd will be the first run. There's 600 of each. They're numbered from 1 to 600. The card will be labeled and everything. So you will have documentation, packaging, signature, everything. And they will never be made again.
I like it.
And those will be collectible. There'll be a whole set, a year's worth, a whole set. And so whoever gets the set, that'll be something, because it'll be a whole completed set. So on that note,
I like it. We're on the verge of becoming Don West here. Have you watched the Don West stuff?
No, I don't even.
Don West sold baseball cards on late night TV in the 80s.
Oh, no kidding.
You never seen that? He would be on there. He'd be like, you haven't seen that clip where he walks in and he'd be like, you do not want to miss this opportunity. He goes, you want to pick up the hottest chick at the bar? He goes, you buy this set of cards for $39.99. And then you walk into that bar and you say, you're going home with me tonight. And when she says why, you say, because I bought $39.99 set of cards, which proves that I'm. You haven't seen any of this?
No, I didn't see him. Seen none of it. I've seen none of it.
Dude, I don't know if I could share this without. Yeah, I'm going to share it. You want to see it? We got like 10 minutes.
Yeah, share away.
Dude, this is awesome.
Is it going to be funny?
It's funny. Crap? Yeah. Oh, dude, it's hilarious. I've watched this guy for hours now.
Outstanding.
Don West.
Okay.
Because I have to share it with the audio. Hold on. Entire screen. Share with audio system. Share. Here, let's see if we can hear it.
Now, if you're in the Chicago area, 88 Fleer, factory set. We got a 1990 score. Factory set. We got a 1991 Fleer. Make sure to keep this from falling here. Got a 1987 rack box with over 1,300 cards. 1987 Topps Rack 5, 11.5. Holy cow!
You haven't heard this guy?
Approximately 30.
No, is he doing this stuff now?
It's for $199. Later out here and figure out one of these things. And you go through the.
You haven't heard of Don West, dude? It's great. It's great.
I mean, does this stuff now?
Yeah, he just made a comeback. I think he just passed away. Honestly.
Yeah, sure. He probably had heart problems from doing all the yelling on the cards.
It was legendary stuff. Here.
Oh, you know what? Did we?
You better dial. I'm going to guarantee you not one, but 2 Jim Mint 10 Dale Earnhardts. 2 Jim Mint 10 Dale Earnhardt.
Guaranteed Gem Mint.
On your marks, get set, go. 2 Jim Mint 10s, the 5 Earnhardt tribute cards.
You haven't seen this?
No, dude. Why? Would have no reason to see that.
Nothing but baseball. How's this? No, they're going to be graded, but then we're going to give you sets. Listen to me and listen to me well. At $149 on StrixBait, you will never in your life have more fun than you will on this item.
Okay, so you tell me that's not going to be epic, Eric, in 2 years. I've got this lure.
Dude, yeah, he actually passed away at the end of this year, which kind of had like a comeback of all of his old.
So is he like the original shopping network guy
for sports cards?
For sports cards,
yeah.
You know, Mike Rowe used to do that from Dirty Jobs. Yeah.
You know what? You know how they ended up being able to do? I read a bunch of articles on that because that's just what I do with my life. You know how they ended up being able to give away all those cards? They would go to the card manufacturers after they had gotten rid of their cards for when they had like too many cards, right? That didn't sell. They would sell them like wholesale for cardboard scrap.
No kidding.
So they found out that they could buy these unopened boxes of cards at scrap cardboard prices, which is like a cent for a freaking case of these things. And then they could get them all and then sell them
as brand new unopened.
They are brand new unopened. There's just no value to them. And that's how they could sell 95 unopened sets of cards for 25 for $100, and they're still making, if they sold them for $100, they'd be making $99 on it.
That's wild.
Yeah,
that's wild. Wow,
that's good stuff. Anyway,
well,
there's a lot of value.
Did we pick a winner?
No, we didn't pick a winner yet. But anyway, so yours are actually numbered 1 to 300 though.
1 to 600. The
1 to 600, and there'll be one a month.
Yeah, the baits have my signature on them. The packaging is numbered with the name of the bait. My signature's on the package.
Can you give us a clue as to like what some of the baits are?
There's a whole array.
Like rhymes with.
Well, the first
rhymes with
the first ones.
Okay. What's the first one? Rhymes with. Does it rhyme?
Rhymes with Bat Boy.
Ooh, okay. I like it. That's enough. You don't have to give away anymore.
Yeah.
It is about time though that you are getting your due as far as your mastery with the paint jobs.
Oh, dude, it's just part of my job.
I know, but like, dude, like you did the what was the one that almost won the Gunnersville Classic? Like 3 of the top 5 guys.
End.
You did the speed end and
dude,
all
that's
that,
what
but
I've been
like
catching all them fish.
I know, but no one at the time knew that was a Frank Scalish deal.
No, nobody knew that. But that's what I've been catching all those smallmouth and largemouth on the last couple times out was the speed end and the Rogue in the FX color
that you have to pay for.
Yeah.
All right. I'm scrolling through our 16 starred questions. I'm looking directly at the camera. And like I said, I know there's a better way to do this, but it is.
And I say stop.
It is Alex Gaziano.
Okay.
Uncle Frank, he was the one who asked the question about the tube over a Ned.
Outstanding.
Alex, send me an email, Matt, M-A-T-T, at basszone.com. I will forward that on to Frank, who's very prompt with his mailing, and he will mail you out a signed color number 7. Like I said, we wanted to give away some because we gave away some at the Classic. And if you weren't able to attend the Classic, we didn't want any of the other listeners to get left out. So right. Alex, shoot me a message. He's pumped. There you go.
Outstanding. Let's go, buddy.
That'll work. All right. What else you got, Frank? I enjoy the evening shows.
Yeah, I do too. It's different than the morning, but it's fun.
It's later in the day.
Yeah, it's dark out. Oh,
you're a grandpa now. I didn't know if I could keep you up this late.
Yeah, you can.
All right.
I'm not a early go to bed kind of guy. That's my problem.
I got 4 minutes to jump on the Tin Horse Monty show. Both you and I have done that show. Really cool guys out of the Midwest. So if you guys are looking for another cool show to follow, just look up Tin Horse Monty on YouTube. And I'm going to click on the link and jump over. I'm going to take the sweatshirt off, though. I got to show you the shirt that I have on underneath real quick, though. I think I still have a shirt. Yeah, I still do. So I met this guy 2 years ago at the Classic. Goes by Fish Puck. You saw him. He was at the Bass Tank booth, and he's got these T-shirts that are it's like Metallica lettering, but it's got a jumping bass with a hockey helmet on it.
Okay.
Super cool. Like totally up my alley.
Absolutely. So that's what you're gonna adorn this evening.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the Tin Horse. It's just a tad big. I've dropped some lbs lately, so
good for you, man.
I feel like I don't grunt when I tie my shoe. Like I realized it. Like my buddy was like, "Hey, you realize you grunt when you try to put those shoes on?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, that needs to be a life change." All right, Frank. Stay tuned to BassZone.com. We'll have the schedule out. No BTL day for Thursday. This took the place of that. You can listen to this Thursday morning at 8:30 in the morning if that's what makes you happy. But this is our show for this week. We gave it out as always. Entertain, educate, engage, informative. And if you want a shot at the Shad Week shirts, you better jump on that.
You got to get them. Just trust me. Hopefully one day I could tell you the story behind that, but just get them because
that'll work.
You're there again.
All right. Let me throw the music up. There it is.
Beauty.
This has been another edition of Day 4 with the man, Frank SCALISH. See ya.